Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Rhino and in today's video I have a full review for you of the brand new Era 2 Independent Alliance Premium Tank Destroyer. It's the Rock Crawler and this was released today on the 24th of October as this video is going out. This is what the tank looks like, and as you can see it's got a massive 183mm caliber gun, which can be very punishing on the battlefield. So we're going to be going over to Excel in just a little bit, having a look at the stats of the Rock Crawler, comparing to two other vehicles in today's video. Then I'll take you to the garage, have a look at the armor profile of the Rock Crawler. I'll talk you through my commander and equipment setup and how that changes the stats of the Rock Crawler, and then we will get into some gameplay at the end, and I'll talk you through how I like to play the Rock Crawler. So the Rock Crawler is available from today, the 24th of October, right up until the 21st of November, and you can get it in three different bundles. You can get the Ultimate Bundle, which comes with the equipment, premium time and boosters for 16,500 gold. Then you've got the Loaded Bundle with boosters and premium time for 14,600 gold, and you've also got the tank on its own in the base bundle for 12,900 gold, so a pretty hefty price. I've seen lots and lots of these tanks on the battlefield already today, so it must be selling pretty well. And now we're going to go over to Excel, where I've got the stats of the Rock Crawler here on the left, and in today's video we're going to be comparing it firstly to the FE4005, which I know is an Era 1 vehicle, but it's got a 183mm caliber gun, and it's a good indication of how the characteristics of this gun step up into Era 2. And then we'll be comparing it to the only other high caliber tank destroyer in the form of the Object 120, the Eastern Alliance Tech Tree Era 2 tank destroyer, which has a 152.4mm caliber gun. So we'll have a look at the stats, then I'll talk you through my commander and equipment setup. As you can see, I have two different setups I like to run on this vehicle, and it's a good indication or some advice on which you might want to prefer to suit your gameplay. And then we'll have a look at the armor profile and then the gameplay at the end. So if you haven't seen my reviews before, green's the best stat, red is the worst, and orange is somewhere in between, and the ones highlighted in yellow are updated with my commander and equipment setup applied, and I'll talk you through that in just a little bit. But the Rock Crawler in this comparison is the only premium vehicle, so it's the only vehicle in this comparison that has a silver XP and commander XP bonus. In the form of the Rock Crawler, you have 55% silver bonus, 15% XP bonus, and a very nice 15% commander XP bonus, so pretty good for making silver, and some extra crew training and extra XP as well. And now we're going to get stuck into the raw stats of the Rock Crawler, and just once again, bear in mind the FE4005s in this comparison, just because it's the same caliber of gun, an Era lower, so of course it's going to be worse in quite a lot of the stats, but it's a nice indication of how the Rock Crawler jumps up into Era 2. So, starting with the hit points, on the Rock Crawler you have 2,600 hit points, much more than the Era 1 tank of course, but you also have many more hit points than the Object 120, which is the Eastern Alliance Era 2 Tech Tree tank destroyer with that 152.4mm caliber gun, so that's a nice start for the Rock Crawler. And from my experience, you definitely need all of those hit points, because although you can get this to a pretty sneaky level in terms of its concealment, once you do get lit up, you're a big target, as you can see from the images, and yeah, you can get taken out very quickly indeed. In terms of view range, a very nice 510 meters, the best in this comparison, even beating the other Era 2 tank in this comparison, and that can jump up to a nice level, allowing you to spot for yourself. And when you factor in, this does have the best in this comparison in terms of its still concealment, 360.04 meters. It's much better than the Object 120 and even better than the FE4005 in Era 1, which has surprisingly good camo considering it's an absolutely massive tank. The Rock Crawler is a very sneaky vehicle if you wish to invest in concealment with your setup, and I'll show you that in just a bit. With my concealment crew, 155.47 meter still concealment is nothing to be sniffed at, and it's a very, very sneaky boy if you wish it to be, so that's another good plus for the Rock Crawler. All sounding very good so far, but there are some major downsides, namely the derpiness of the gun and a little bit of the mobility, which we will now get into. So, as you can see, you do have a big engine, 1100 horsepower, and that does equate into a pretty nice top or best in this comparison power to weight at 19.72, much quicker than the Object 120 and of course the FE 4005. You could invest in mobility equipment, but I highly recommend you don't, because the gun needs some help, as well as the DPM and the concealment. So your top forward speed, 56 kilometers an hour, faster than the FE 4005, and it's only a little bit slower than the Object 120. And bear in mind, with that power to weight, you'll get up hills and get to that top speed a lot quicker than the Object 120 does. And that vehicle doesn't actually have very good concealment. Unlike the Turan in World War II game mode, the Object 120 has poor concealment, which is a very, very weird thing, but the Rock Crawler has the benefit in that regard. In terms of the reverse speed on the Rock Crawler, 23 kilometers an hour, best in this comparison by some way, so good for getting down off of those ridgelines, and as you'll see in a little bit, it has good gun depression, so you can use ridgelines very well in this tank. The worst thing about the mobility of the Rock Crawler, apart from the fact you can only move your turret 90 degrees to the left and to the right, is the fact your hold traverse is very slow at 28 degrees a second. You can improve that with your commander skills or the mobility equipment if you wish. However, the turret traverse at 34 degrees a second, which is the best in this comparison, kind of negates that slightly. So if you improve both of them just with your commander skills, you should be in a good spot. But just bear in mind, the hull does move very slowly, so move both your hull and turret at the same time to be able to get your gun around to face those faster moving tanks that are trying to circle you. And many tanks will try and do that because you have limited gun traverse, 90 degrees to the left and to the right. So it's definitely something to be wary of, but pretty nice mobility, pretty nice view range and concealment. So it's all looking pretty tasty for the Rock Crawler so far. So now we're going to get on into the guns of these vehicles, and as we have mentioned, the Rock Crawler has a 183mm caliber gun like the FE 4005 does in Era 1, and the Object 120 has a slightly smaller 152.4mm caliber gun. So you can fire 3 flavours of ammunition with the Rock Crawler: your standard AP rounds, your HESH rounds, and your HE rounds, the HESH being high penetration HE, the same as the FE 4005, and with the Object 120 it fires APDS, heat as its premium ammunition selection, and HE as its third ammunition choice. So with the Rock Crawler's AP rounds, you have 910 meters a second, 390mm of standard penetration for 1150 damage. With the HESH rounds, you have 830 meters a second, so slightly lower than the standard rounds, 300mm of penetration, but your alpha damage jumps up to a whopping 1450. And if you do manage to penetrate with the HE rounds, you have the same 830 meters a second shell velocity you have on the HESH rounds. You have half the penetration at 150. However, your alpha damage will jump up another 200 to 1650. So one skill that can be very useful on this tank in terms of your equipment, I should say, is the advanced reload, meaning you can swap any ammunition out without time penalty, and you can choose the right shell for the right job. In terms of these extra 2 columns, I've got here splash, and module damage. So splash is just the radius of the HE damage, how far it splashes and damages enemy tanks. And the module damage, the higher the number, the more likely you are to damage ammo racks, do critical hits, things like that, and set tanks on fire. So 5.05 meters splash radius on the HESH and the HE, which is the same as the FE 4005s, and it is better than the Object 120s, and 244 module damage on each of the shells, the same as the FE 4005, very good for critical damage, and better than the 203 on the Object 120, which makes sense as it is a lower caliber gun. In terms of what's different compared to the FV4005 in Era 1 with the same gun. You of course have penetration increase in terms of all of your rounds, and you also have a slightly better shell velocity on your AP rounds. 830 meters a second is the standard on the FV4005, whereas the AP rounds on the rock crawler have that 80 meters a second better, so a little bit better for shooting at tanks on the move. However, it's very, very difficult with this slow shell velocity, and it pales in comparison to something like the Object 120, which fires APDS with 1710 meters a second shell velocity. So very difficult to hit things at long ranges, even mid ranges. However, you do have to weigh up how close you want to get to your opponents, because once you get spotted, you can get taken out very quickly. As we'll see, the armor isn't too good on this vehicle, so you're going to have to practice a lot, give in lots of lead, and practice sniping with this 183mm caliber gun. The standard rounds on the Object 120 much better for sniping at mid to long ranges and playing that typical sniping role. However, you do have 3 different flavors of ammunition. You have enough penetration to be able to go through things like the FV4211 with your standard rounds, and light tanks and other lightly armoured medium tanks you can go through with HESH and sometimes with the HE for those massive alpha damage bombs of either 1150, 1450 or 1650, so very nice indeed there. How about the gun handling then on the rock crawler? As you can see, it's got a 2.5 second aim time, same as the FV4005 in Era 1, so nothing gets better there, and it's only slightly worse than the Object 120, and you can get that down to a very respectable level for such a high caliber gun. In terms of the accuracy, 0.36, slightly better than the Era 1 vehicle, thankfully, and only slightly worse than the smaller caliber gun on the Object 120, which is 0.34, and the best in this comparison. And if you invest in your gun handling skills and your setup trying to improve it, you can get that down to a reasonable level. It's still very derpy, and that is the nature of the gun, but when you do hit, you are hitting for a lot of damage. The next section here, accuracy during turret rotation. Thought I'd put that in there to show you how much the gun blooms out when you are moving the turret around. So 2.45. It's the worst in this comparison. It's even worse than the FV4005 in Era 1, and over twice as worse, or about twice as worse than the Object 120's round. So bear in mind, when you move, when you turn your turret, your gun blooms out quite a lot, and it can be very, very hard to snap shots in if you're doing that. So as still as possible when you're aiming is obviously the best course of action. In terms of the rock crawler, rate of fire 2.61, which is somewhere in the middle. Of course, the Object 120 is going to have a slightly higher rate of fire as it's a lower caliber gun. And on the rock crawler, you reload one shell in a base 23-second reload, which is 7 seconds better than the FV4005 in Era 1, and it's a lot worse than the Object 120, of course. DPM on the rock crawler, and this is with your AP rounds 3002, much better than the Era 1 vehicle, the FV4005, which is 2300, and it's only a little bit behind the Object 120, and when you add in the HESH and the HE, you can get your DPM up to a fairly nice level for the kind of playstyle that the rock crawler will be playing with those massive alpha damage bombs. In terms of ammo capacity, you carry 40 rounds of ammunition into each battle, which is twice as many as the FV4005 in Era 1, and only 4 less than the Object 120 with that lower caliber gun. Gun depression, joint best in this comparison with the FV4005, very nice for working on ridgelines, twice as good as the Object 120. And the only really big downside is this gun elevation, very hard for shooting up at tanks, and if they get above you, it can be very difficult to find an angle on your opponents, whereas the Object 120 has the best in this comparison at 15 degrees of gun elevation. The Object 120 can fully rotate its turret all around the tank, whereas the rock crawler is the same as the FV4005, can only move its gun 90 degrees to the left and 90 degrees to the right. So what do we take home from this stats comparison, where you do have a nice silver XP and commander XP bonus as it's a premium vehicle, so you have a benefit in that regard. Plenty of hit points to be able to take a few shells, however not too many from tanks like the rock crawler itself. You have very good steel concealment and view range, and if you buff your steel concealment, you can get your concealment down to a very nice level and outspot a lot of your opponents, even though you are a pretty big vehicle. You have a decent engine power, very good for going up hills compared to something like the Object 120. A limited top forward speed, but your reverse speed is very nice down for getting down off of those ridge lines. Your hull traverse is a little bit bad, but you can improve that with your setup, and your turret traverse being the best in this comparison does negate that. You have your big alpha damage bombs, slow shell velocity, you have to get used to it, but you have lots of different choice in how you penetrate your opponents. You can of course splash damage your opponents with those nice splash damage of 5.05 meters, meaning that you don't even have to penetrate with the Hessian HE to do damage, and you have that nice module damage of 244 to be able to do critical damage to your opponents. Pretty nice gun handling considering it's a 183mm caliber gun. It does translate into a bit of derpiness in the game, but that's to be expected with the caliber of gun. A nice jump up from the 183mm gun in Era 1 to Era 2 in terms of your reload and in terms of your accuracy. Plenty of rounds of ammunition, good gun depression, but yeah, limited gun traverse. So that's it for the stats comparison there of the rock crawler. I'm now going to talk you through my commander and my equipment setup, and then I'll show you how that's changed the stats of the rock crawler. Then we'll get stuck into the garage, have a look at the armor profile, and then get into the gameplay at the end of today's video. So I have two different loadouts that I like to run on this vehicle. I started off by using this aim time build, which is basically me trying to improve the gun as much as possible and not really focusing on the concealment. Then I have a concealment build which I used later on in my session to see how good the concealment can get, and I would prefer the concealment build now. However, both are viable depending on your playstyle. If you like to use the vision mechanics to outspot your opponents, you're a little bit more experienced, the concealment's probably better for you, and the aim times one is better for people that to sit back and snipe more, play that typical tank destroyer role with the rock crawler. So in terms of my equipment, with the aim time build, I like to run the advanced loader, advanced gun lay and drive, and the advanced reload. So the advanced loader to help the DPM out. Advanced reload means I can switch any kind of shell without time penalty, so I can choose HE if a light tank appears in front of me, or I can choose AP if I need to penetrate an FE4 to 11, and a gun lay and drive to further improve the gun handling of this vehicle. And in terms of my commander skills, Sixth Sense, Born Leader, Rapid Loading, Steady Aim, Rapid Aim, Snapshot, Deadeye, Clutch Braking, and Track Mechanics. So Sixth Sense and Born Leader are standard on every single one of my commanders. Rapid Loading to help the DPM, Steady Aim, Rapid Aim, and Snapshot to help the gun handling out as much as possible. Deadeye allows the AP rounds to do more critical damage, more likely to damage fuel tanks, engines, set people on fire, and deal ammo racks. Clutch Braking to help the whole traverse out, and Track Mechanic to make sure that I am not getting tracked out in the open, because once you are spotted, yeah, you're not long for this world because your armor isn't great, as we're going to see in a little bit. And what does that do in terms of the base stats? Well, it jumps my view range up to 531 meters, and my steel concealment goes down to 313.44 meters, and that's because I use the enhanced smokescreen as a consumable. Hull traverse has improved slightly thanks to the clutch braking. That's improved to 30.31 degrees a second, and my turret traverse has gone up with the gun handling skills to 39.36 degrees a second, so just shy of 40 degrees a second. And in terms of the aim time, dropped from 2.5 to 2.11 seconds. Accuracy's gone down to 0.31 and 2.06 when the turret is rotating. Rate of fire has gone up to 3.4, which means I now reload in 17.66 seconds with a DPM of 3,910 with the AP rounds. And what do I run on my concealment build? I run the advanced loader the same as the aim time build, and then I switch out the gun lay and drive for the advanced concealment to further improve the concealment, and I also run the advanced reload to switch shells when I need to, depending on what target comes in front of me. In terms of the commander skills with my concealment build, Sixth Sense, born leader, rapid loading, steady aim, rapid aim, and snapshots are all the same as the aim time build to improve my DPM and my gun handling. And the last 3 skills I switch out: Deadeye for camouflage expertise, clutch braking for silent driving, and track mechanic for clutch braking. So I'm taking a chance on the track mechanic. I'm not going to get tracked, and hopefully I'm choosing my position as well to improve the whole traverse. Silent driving, because I want to make it as silent as possible, getting into position and help the concealment. And of course, Deadeye, taking it out for camouflage expertise to further improve the concealment of the rock crawler. And if you run the concealment build, you'll have the same view range that I had with the aim time build, 531 meters. However, you will have halved, or essentially halved, your still concealment, and you get a good on the move concealment as well, meaning you're a very sneaky boy as well. And when you combine that with your improvement in the view range, you can outspot your opponents very well. In terms of the whole traverse, it will have changed to the same as with the rock crawler, because we are using the clutch braking, which means that your whole traverse is 30.31 degrees a second. Turret traverse the same with the gun handling skills, 39.36 degrees a second. And this is where it changes slightly. So because we have sacrificed the gun lay and drive for the advanced concealment, the aim time has only dropped by 0.1 to 2.4 seconds, but it is still manageable, and the accuracy is the same at 0.31. The exact same reload, 7.66 seconds with the same DPM of 3,910. So the only big difference is a slightly more aim time for a much, much better concealment and ability to spot for yourself. So I prefer the concealment build. However, if you hate the aim time, you might want to consider either switching this setup around or just choosing the setup with the aim time that I have just described to you. So that's it for the commander and equipment setup section of this video. Now I'm going to head on into the garage. We're going to have a look at the armor profile of the rock crawler, and then we're going to get stuck into the gameplay at the end of today's video. So I'll see you over in the garage in just a second. So we're now in the garage having a look at the armor viewer of the rock crawler, and as you can see, there aren't any red, yellow or orange sections, which usually indicates that the vehicle doesn't have any armor. And in the case of the rock crawler, that is kind of the case. However, there is a little bit of armor that can protect against autocannons and a little bit of HE or splash damage thanks to some spaced armor. So the thickest part of the armor are these sections here to the left and right underneath the turret on the side of the vehicle, 203mm. The next thing of note is the lower plate, 171mm, which is covered by a little bit of spaced armor, and we'll see the thickness of that a little bit later on. But most tanks are just going to go straight through this with APDS, APFSDS, AP rounds. However, it might protect against a little bit of splash damage thanks to that spaced armor over the front from things like heat and HE and HESH rounds. The next sections to be aware of are this 120mm upper plate, and it's angled slightly, so at angles like this, 45 degrees, it can protect against low penetration rounds from small caliber guns or auto cannons. However, straight at the front, most things are going to absolutely butcher you, especially things like the rock crawler, and they're going to deal a heck of a lot of damage. And ATGMs, this is a great place to shoot above that spaced armor, splash down on the hull and deal a lot of damage to this vehicle. The actual sides of the tank are 88mm, which means that you can side scope fairly well in this vehicle. However, you have to stop people shooting your very, very weak turret, as we're going to see in a second. And you do have these rounded sections, which are slightly thicker. As you can see there, these cutout sections are above 100mm, so it can side scrape, especially against low caliber rounds. However, be wary, your upper hull, lower plate and your turret are very weak indeed. Next sections to the left and right of the upper plate, 76mm, slightly angled, but again very easy to go through and only good for sort of angling against auto cannons. The front of the turret, 50mm, so very, very easy to go through. They are angled back slightly, however, a very weak turret. So when you're using your 10 degrees of gun depression on a ridge, you don't want to sit there or make it easy for your opponents. Go backwards and forwards, side to side, and try and get people to miss your turret, as it is very weak. The rear of the vehicle, 38mm of armor, great for getting around with a light tank with ATGMs or with an autocannon and absolutely shredding this tank. Sides of the turret 30mm, turret ring 25mm. The tracks are 20mm of spaced armour, 20mm of spaced armour over the front, and some sections there, as you can see, to the side of the vehicle, to the rear of the turret and the side of the turret, which can protect against HE rounds and sometimes absorb heat rounds at certain angles. However, more often than not, high penetration heat will be able just to go straight through this vehicle. You have 15mm of roof armour, which means that 46mm caliber guns or higher can overmatch this section here, and those cupolas are easy to hit as well, very easy to penetrate, and high caliber rounds will just overmatch the top of your turret when you're on a ridgeline, which can be very, very frustrating. 10mm there towards the back of the turret, so not much else to add there, and 6mm of spaced armour on the side there, so very weak indeed. Go through the upper plate, front of the turret, overmatch that. The only thing that you want to try and do in this vehicle is, one, improve your concealment, use bushes, foliage and the concealment to outspot your opponents, get on a ridge line, hide as much of your turret as possible, use your 10 degrees of gun depression, try and bait people into shooting your side where the spaced armour is and that strong side armour, and try and get people to shoot your spaced armour with heat, HE or HESH, and hope that they don't penetrate fully or they get their shot absorbed. And if you are fighting this vehicle, upper hull is easy. The hull of this tank's pretty much easy to shoot. Just, don't be baited into shooting the side or shooting 80 GMs into that spaced armour 20mm over the front. So very awkward, considering you can only move your gun to 90 degrees to the left and the right. You really want to utilise the power of your alpha damage in your concealment to keep your opponents away from you. Make sure you've got support, because you are truly just a support vehicle and nothing much else than that. But that's it for the armour profile of the rock crawler. We're now going to get stuck into the first of the gameplay, so I'll see you over there in just a second. So we're now into the first gameplay of today's video, and as you can see, we're on Ruinberg in the rock crawler, and we have spawned in the southern location, and I'm going to take this vehicle into the city, try and use these corridors to try and get shots down and then fall back behind hard cover. I could have taken this tank to the eastern side of the map and tried to use that ridge line that runs across the E line to try and get shots down into the town. However, it's a light tank paradise and I felt like I'm just going to get YOLO'd, which happened very, very often in my session today in this vehicle, because it's a new tank, people want to take it out, and also because you have limited gun traverse and you slap so hard, people want to get you out of the game very, very quickly. So because you annoy tanks a lot, very often you are going to be targeted first. Fortunately for us, that Ignis Brigade show there sort of crashes into the building. We managed to get an AP round that can penetrate through the destructible car in front of us, and we pick up our first little bit of damage in this game, and then we're going to go for a reload. And you can see that although it's a fairly long reload for a 183mm caliber gun, it isn't too bad at all, and if you do have support, you can make this reload work. We're now trying to reverse out of the way. Another rock crawler is coming in hot. He looks like he's been slapped by a few tanks and was just trying to get one final round off, so we get a round into him, finish him off. That's our second kill of the game, and we're up to over 1,000 damage. As you can see, I run large med, large repair kit and the enhanced smokescreen to help the concealment out, to be able to get all my modules back as quickly as possible. And now we're going to try and create a crossfire with the tanks that are straight in front of me. So for pretty much all of these gameplays, barring maybe one at the end, I'm going to be using the setup with my commander and equipment that I run to improve the aim time. I'm not really using the concealment in today's gameplay. However, I kind of switched to using the concealment setup more towards the latter stages of the gameplay, and I have some gameplay which I'm hopefully going to put out at another time, showing you how sneaky this tank can be. So bear in mind, the aim time is going to be a lot better in most of these gameplays, and the concealment a little bit worse, but the aim time helped us there get that lovely shot, taking out that BMP1, and low health targets with this high caliber gun and this alpha damage can absolutely slap. And if you make use of that advanced reload where you're able to switch out and change your shell without any time penalty, the advanced reload skill, it means that you can choose the right shell for the job, the AP round to go through destructible cover, and the Hesh and the HE to be able to penetrate lightly armoured targets. Now we're going to try and loop a shot there, plenty of penetration to go through that Magak 5, I believe it was, that's hold down. And now this is a very awkward situation we find ourselves in with our enhanced smokescreen on cooldown. We're going to hide behind this rock and all of this destructible cover, try and make it hard for our opponents to hit our turret by moving backwards and forwards. We haven't taken any damage, and as I say that, we did take our first little bit of damage, so now we're going to try and take one of these tanks out of the game. A light tank's coming after us, so this M60A2 comes round, provides a little bit of a distraction. I'm very wary that there is a light tank running around. We waited long enough for our enhanced smokescreen to come, and now we can turn our attentions to trying to get into a little bit of a safer location. A shot here on the T72 AV with AP loaded. We managed to do some very nice damage there, set him on fire, hopefully with help from the Deadeye skill, which does improve the chance of having critical hits like that. And now it's all about trying to reload as quickly as possible. The Scorpion Knight is coming in hot. It's a very close game. Hopefully we can free aim. We should have switched out there to a Hesh or an HE round. We would have been able to penetrate and take him out. I think I just wanted to make sure of some damage here at the end of the game, and unfortunately this Scorpion Knight has got us on reload, and this is what happens very frequently in this vehicle. Light tanks will try and YOLO you once you have shot, and there's not much you can really do about it. I was hoping my teammate might have been able to take out the Scorpion 90. Unfortunately, it takes a little bit longer than needed to be able to keep us in the game, but it's now 2 versus 1, so hopefully our teammates should be able to take the rest of this game down. And we did just enough. We put our alpha damage bombs in where we could, take out low health targets where we can, or not even so low health targets with the alpha damage that this gun puts out. And now we're going to watch as our Magak 5 and our Leopard 1 take out the enemy Magak 5, hopefully resulting in a victory for the first gameplay of today's video here on Ruinberg. So that's a victory there. We finished with 2 tanks remaining. We picked up a nice damage result there of 4 kills, 6.4k direct damage, a profit with or without a premium account. Only a second class, so people of course are playing this very, very well. I've seen very many of these tanks on the battlefield already, so it must be selling pretty well, and we finished there in second spot. So that's it for the first gameplay. Now we're going to head on into the second gameplay and see what we can get up to. So now we're on Kasserine in the rock crawler. We have spawned in the northeast, and we're going to be making our way to start this battle into the centre ridges of this map, trying to catch someone, getting into position and slap them with a massive alpha damage bomb. And that's what I try and do in this vehicle, use the good mobility that this tank destroyer has to get into a position early doors to try and get a big shot off to start off the battle. Not sure what I was doing there with the controller, probably just checking that the thumbsticks are still working, because typical Xbox controllers, yeah, starting to drift after about 1 or 2 games worth of World of Tanks console, maybe smashing the controller here or there when I miss a shot. But we're in position now. A very lazy, poorly aimed shot there on an M3A1 Bradley, I believe, and yeah, we have to go down for a reload. So when I'm reloading, trying to make sure I'm behind hard cover, get the reload in, then I can pop up and see if I can get a shot into someone else. And you saw there that that shell velocity, even with the slightly better shell velocity you get on this 183mm compared to the 183 on the FV4005 in Era 1, yeah, it's not very good for sniping, and you really do have to give a lot more lead than you are giving with a lot of vehicles in Era 2 and even in Era 1. But we do manage to sort of snap a shot there into that Ignis Brigatio on the hill, dealing a low roll of 982 damage. And it's always nice when a low roll is 982. Yeah, you really start to feel the pain if you're on the receiving end of one of these shots. And I was trying to practice during my session, just getting used to switching the shells for the right target. Unfortunately, there are some, like you saw in the last gameplay, some parts of the game where I should have switched a shell. I would have been able to penetrate and take out a tank rather than just dealing damage with the AP, and that's something that just comes with practice of using this tank. And as you can see, I'm again using the build with the better aim time and the worse concealment, so we're going to be spotted a lot easier, but hopefully the aim time can help us get a shot into one of these tanks that are crossing towards the northeast of the map. And yeah, trying to contest the base. We are down by 2 tanks. I'm just trying to find a shot on one of these vehicles. Unfortunately there, the shot just derped into the ground. I felt like it was aimed pretty well. However, yeah, the derpy nature of this gun, things like that will just happen even when you're fully aimed and stationary at a target that's stationary. That will happen occasionally, and it can be very frustrating. And missed shots in a tank with a pretty poor DPM compared to other vehicles in Era 2 can be very, very bad news indeed. But this bandit, for some reason, he either knew I was there and didn't care, or he just did not know I was there, and we get a shot right through the side. I would have loaded Hesh there, but there's some spaced armor on the side of the bandit, and there's a good chance that it wouldn't have been able to go through with only 300mm of penetration. So we go for the sort of confirmed damage of the 1150 with the AP rounds. Pop our enhanced smoke screen, now we're going to come after the Centurion 9. I've loaded the Hesh thinking I should be able to go through the either engine deck, which I think I was aiming for, but it flew up into the sort of turret ring and penetrated anyway. And yeah, with a few shots we're up to 3.6k damage. So if you are looking after your hit points, especially if you like to play the concealment setup that you will have seen when I'm talking about the stats, you can do some very, very nasty things. We fire Hesh there at the side of the enemy rock crawler. Don't penetrate because some of the spaced armor, and yeah, now's about a good time for us to try and get out of dodge. We bounce that Stingray there at a very weird angle, so it very occasionally keeps you in the game with those ricochets. Just enough armor on the side to be useful. It looked like there we dodged an ATGM from straight in front of us, so we're going to take our time to pop up, snap a shot there into the Centurion. Again, with Hesh, if I was loading AP there, I would have been able to take out the Centurion, and it's just a case of probably being in a stressful situation and not thinking enough to be able to switch the shells in that moment. Trying to look for the enemy Ignis Pagacio, I believe it was, that was firing an ATGM at us. It's 8 versus 8, and now we're going to try and defend the tanks that are going to be coming from the north. Going to be trying to get my teammates behind me to actually support me. However, they are on ridge lines above me, so it looks like I'm on my own down here in this sort of canyon for the moment, and probably only going to be able to get one more shot off, so I'm going to have to try and make sure it counts. Stingray comes down. We got Hesh. We can go straight through the Stingray there, probably overmatch his side, and then we're going to nudge him for a ram kill there. But unfortunately, it means we are going to be taken out. Just trying to sort of create a bit of a blockage here while my teammates get into better positions. And yeah, we didn't do an awful lot in that battle, but with only a few shots sort of loaded, we managed to pick up 6.4k damage, block 920 with 221 assistance. So now, as our team are trying to carry me through the rest of this game, I'll skip forwards and we'll see how we did. So fortunately for me, my team carried me through that game on Kasserine. We finished with a nice profit with or without a premium account, finish in 4th place on the team. 1 kill, 6.4k direct damage, 221 assistance, and somehow blocking 920 damage. And we died pretty early in a 7 minutes and 1 second battle duration, showing you that you can do a pretty nice amount of damage if you choose your shells correctly, choose your opponents correctly, and you can have a big impact playing a support vehicle. So that's it for that game there on Kasserine. We're now going to head on into the third gameplay of 5 in today's video, so I'll see you over in the third gameplay in just a second. So you're joining me here 1 minute into a battle on Swamp. We have spawned in the south. We fired one of our shells at a Conqueror that was moving in the open ground, but we did miss. Someone has fired their enhanced smokescreen out in front of us. We're just waiting for our reload, trying to use our 10 degrees of gun depression on this ridgeline. We do have to be careful about exposing too much of our tank, because even though the concealment isn't too bad on this vehicle, it'd be much better if I was using the concealment setup. You are a big silhouette, and with the True Vision system, people being able to spot your silhouette, you do have to be very careful because you don't have much armor. A bandit comes out. We're trying to aim for as long as possible there. AP round right through the side for 1133, and that poor guy gets taken out by our friendly rock crawler. So that bandit got 2 shot by 2 rock crawlers, and like I mentioned earlier in today's video, there are many rock crawlers on the battlefield. It looks like it's selling very, very well on day 1, and yeah, a high caliber gun derpy gun, it's probably going to do very, very well and be very popular. But now we're firing at a T55 Enigma, and AP is pretty much the only thing that can go through unless we have at the side or the rear of that vehicle, and even then Hesh would struggle to go through. Hesh would definitely, would definitely struggle to go through and only deal a minuscule amount of splash. So we're going to go for the 1150, almost guaranteed damage depending on your roll, and then we're going to see if we can choose another target. Conqueror comes up on a pretty healthy amount of hit points, enough to take usually between sort of 2 to 3 shots, maybe even 1 and 2, but with a gun like this, only 1 shot and he's taken out of the game. And we're just trying to defend this location. FV4 211 there, looking like he might pop up. We're going to try and get a shot into him. Hopefully if he stops on that ridge, we can go through his cupola with the AP round. He does stop, tries to aim at us, he puts one into us, but we trade the best out of that deal, and the rock crawler is fantastic for trading with other vehicles. There's nothing else in Era 2 that can trade as well, apart from tanks that, have the multiple weapon system and they could fire an ATGM and then their main cannon into you. Apart from that, you're going to trade best. It just means that you're more likely to be YOLO'd by enemy tanks because they know you've got a long reload and they're going to come after you. And if you're fighting a rock crawler, if it puts one into you and there's no one else around it, you've got to make that time to put multiple rounds for every 1 round that the rock crawler puts into you, because otherwise it will come out on top thanks to its massive alpha damage. And be very wary, there's going to be a lot for a while as it's the new flavour of the month tank. When it kind of settles down, I'm sure there'll be a few less in the matchmaker, but we're up to 4.2k damage in the first 4 minutes of this battle with 1 kill. An M60A2 is coming round and we're going to try and take him out. He rams our medium tank, I believe, or gets tracked. We're going to come round, go right through the front there. Hesh would have been able to go through the front of that M60A2, but fortunately we do have 2 teammates here that hopefully can help us with the push of this WZ-122 as well. He's not looking at us, so we're going to switch to Hesh and then hopefully get around right through the side of the WZ-122, set him on fire, and a beautiful burnout there with the FV-4211 on our team taking that kill, up to 6.4k damage with 1 kill. The FV-4211 is coming after us, and I make a massive misplay here. I go for the one spot that I shouldn't have gone. The higher the lower plate, I would have been able to go through with AP, and I should have waited for him to come over and just gone straight through his upper hole with the little weak square underneath his gun mantlet. However, teammates help us. We managed to reverse out of the way with the good reverse speed of this tank, and now it looks like it's a case of a last stand. There's a rock crawler there who is on a very healthy amount of hit points, and an M60A2 there who is going to be coming after us. An M50 on toss, so this is probably going to be our last shot of the game. So what we do is just fire AP into the lower plate of the M60A2. Again, I could have got more out of this if I just switched to that Hesh a little bit earlier. Again, that is just lack of experience. I haven't played this tank or played WoT Tanks console for quite a while, as I've been on holiday and haven't been very well again. But yeah, play more of this tank, get used to switching, and I would have been able to maybe take it over the 8k mark in that game. But I lost there on Swamp in a 5-minute, 23-second battle. It's hard to deal damage in these short duration battles with a tank that hasn't got great DPM. But we make a nice profit with or without a premium account. 1 kill, 7.8k direct damage, and we did block 390 damage. So that's it for that game there on Swamp. We're now going to head on into the next one. So I'll see you over there shortly. So you're joining me here on Grim Graveyard, one of the Halloween maps that is in rotation for a while. And we have headed to the hill here. It is just Prokhorovka. But yeah, with massive differences in all of the hardcover and all of the darkness, and it's very, very hard to see with the True Vision system. So this tank, you do have to rely on people to spot for you, especially when you are on a map where it's very hard to see people with the True Vision system. And thankfully, we do have lots of tanks over on the west, down the 1 and 2 line, that are spotting for us, and we can poke up here with our good gun depression and shoot tanks that are coming at us. Gonna get one right through the TR-580 there with an AP round, and we do high roll over 1200 damage. Beautiful, and we have the wreck of this Revenant in front of us that we can use as hard cover. AMX 30B2 below us. We don't reload in time to be able to get a shot into him, but we're just going to be as patient as possible on this hill. And I've tried to play this tank on this map in very many positions in my play session, and this was the best one because you have enough gun depression to poke this ridgeline, get some spotting assistance, and you also have enough sort of hard cover and the ability to fall back and be able to stay out of harm's way, as long as you have tanks in the centre or down the 1 and 2 line that are stopping tanks from advancing and getting shots into your side. So we're just playing the support role as good as we can. We have the ability to switch between whatever round we needed. I didn't feel like our AP round would have been able to penetrate the FE4-11 at this distance, so what did I do? I switched to HE, regular HE, so I'm not using up as many credits as the HES rounds, and we just splashed that FE4-11 for over 500 damage. And that is the beauty, especially when you are being supported and you have cover, is you have the ability to splash those heavy tanks without having to penetrate them, and trying to preserve my hit points as long as possible. Going to try and get a shot on this rock crawler here. He stops in a position and we managed there to penetrate with a regular HE round. I thought I switched to an AP, but I believe that was a regular HE, and it looked like it went straight through the side, and he is out of here and back in the garage. So someone's popped their enhanced smokescreen. We're up to just shy of 4k damage with 544 assistance and 1 kill. Up by 3 tanks, but I don't want to be too cocky at this moment in time. There could be all number of tanks towards the north and the north east that would have shots on me if I advanced, and I'm going to try and pick the right moment in a minute to advance and try and get the last remaining bits of damage out of this game. And it's about picking and choosing your moments in this vehicle. If I used the concealment setup, I would have been able to advance a lot easier, but I didn't realise how good the concealment was until about halfway through my play session. Then I changed to the concealment setup I talked about in the garage part of today's video, so if you haven't seen that, go back and check. And yeah, we managed to do a good lot of damage there to the front of that M60A2 just by splashing over 600 damage. And as long as you have cover, as long as you have support, you can rack up the damage, even though the DPM isn't the same as it is on some of the light tanks and the medium and heavy tanks that have single fire guns. Distance there, putting a shot into the rock crawler for over 1000 damage, again rolling pretty much average for the AP round. You have plenty of ammunition, as you can see at the bottom. I carry 15 HESH, 15 AP and 10 regular HE into the battle, so a nice selection of all the rounds. Conqueror looks like he might be coming up, and if he does, he's going to have a nasty surprise, as hopefully I can put a HESH round right through his lower plate. But it looks like he's back down. We're up by 3 tanks. There's only 5 enemies remaining, so I'm going to make a big advance here, just trying to pick the best sort of position that I can get a shot through this Conqueror. Wait till he shows us his lower plate and we take him out there with one shot, dealing over 1300 damage. Pop my smoke screen, try and stay out of harm's way, hide in these bushes and go for another reload, and we manage there to get some more damage and assistance and pick up our second kill of the game. Using the Revenant now as hard cover in case anyone is aiming at us. Now we're reloaded, we can pick our next target, and that M60A2 looks really juicy. Hopefully we can put a HESH round into the side of that vehicle. And when you pen HESH or the regular HE, it feels so nice. And yeah, derpy guns can be fun, but also incredibly frustrating. And yeah, it's going to be a complete sort of hit and miss when you're playing this vehicle sometimes, whether your snapshots will pull off. But yeah, don't take it too seriously and just have fun in this vehicle, because that's the way that I had fun in it. Playing it too seriously, trying to be too competitive, makes you play too aggressively sometimes. You lose your hit points, you start snapping your shots, and it means that yeah, you don't hit those big derpy alpha damage bombs that you've seen us hit so far in today's video. So there's an enemy rock crawler still left on the enemy team. 30B2 Brenus there. on low health, so I was hoping that I might be able to peek this ridge, get one last round into the rock crawler. So we quickly get up with Hesh, snap it into the side. It doesn't penetrate because of the HE on the side of the rock crawler, as we saw in the armor viewer, but we do get some more splash damage there. And we finish in 3rd place on the team with, again, a nice profit with without a premium account, with that 55% silver bonus, 1,262 basic XP, 2 kills, 7.5k direct damage, 1,279 assistance in a battle that lasted 6 minutes and 33 seconds. So that's it for the 4th gameplay there. We're now going to head on into the 5th and final gameplay of today's video. So you're joining me here on Hell's Highway, which is the other Halloween map that's in rotation at the moment. The first minute was us trying to find someone to shoot at. We've shot one and missed already. We have the side of the rear of this Type 80, and unfortunately we only do splash damage with the Hesh, but we do pick up a nice lot of assistance as well. And I can't really be any more aggressive than I am already. I've tried to play this map with this tank, go down the one line, but unfortunately it's very, very open and it can be very dangerous indeed. And I wanted some sort of crossfire with the tanks that are going down the 1 and 2 line and into the centre, and I also wanted the ability to go into the city if needed. So we have the gun depression here to be able to use this position, but it's very frustrating. Every tank that is coming up that autolock says that I have a shot on is behind some sort of hard cover, and they disappear very quickly. We swing our turret round, but not quick enough to get a shot on that T-72M1. And this is the first gameplay of today's video that I am finally using the concealment build, and this gameplay is going to be an absolute shit show basically of the 183mm gun. However, we're going to have a fantastic result out of it. So we're going to be missing lots of shots. It's going to be very, very derpy, very frustrating. However, this is kind of the experience that I've had with this tank. That looked like it was perfectly aimed, even though we had to kind of snap it there and it kind of just dipped with the slow shell velocity and missed, having to go for another reload. We're already nearly 3 minutes into this battle. We've done a little bit of assistance and some splash damage, but I was hoping to do a lot more in this battle. But I feel like I can't go into the town now because we don't have anyone else there. If I fire, they're just going to come after me and obliterate me with better DPM. So we're trying to get cross shots on these tanks that are in the northwest of this map. But with Hell's Highway, like Grim Graveyard, there's lots of sort of graves, hardcover, revenants around, and it can be very difficult to be able to find shots. But we managed to get a shot there in the AMX 13 SS11 TCA with the AP. Probably best to fire AP in situations like this unless your tank is stationary, because you do have that slightly better shell velocity. But it is something that I struggled with, and it took me a long time in the play session to get used to the shell velocity, get used to this gun, especially in Era 2, because in Era 1, nothing with ATGMs, you feel like you can be a bit more aggressive with the FV4005. So we aim up on this AMX 13, and I flinch, or I just completely missed, not sure what happened to that shell, and it's just the derpy nature of this gun. And this is the first gameplay you're going to see what happens when things go wrong, but you just get lucky in this tank, and you just don't want to take it too seriously. Sometimes you want to try those snapshots, sometimes you want to try those auto aim shots just to have a laugh, because it's basically a tank just for derping around and having fun. It's very powerful in the right hands, in the right maps, but if you take it too seriously, like I said, I believe in the last gameplay, it can be really frustrating due to the derpy nature of this gun. But the concealment build here is working quite well for us. We're not getting spotted by the vision mechanics, and no one's shot at us with the true vision, so it's looking like we're pretty safe. Unfortunately for us, that Leopard 105 does a weird dance, goes backwards, forwards, and then I thought he was going to go forwards again, and he goes backwards, and we miss another shot. And if you do keep missing these shells, it does add up, and you don't really make a massive silver profit compared to some of the other premiums. But the reason you'd buy this is because you like big derpy guns and you just want to have that alpha damage in Era 2. So we do splash there on the side of the FV4211, taking our damage total to 2.3k. We've got 2.5k assistance, and it's just about being patient here. I don't really want to go out into the field, because if I get spotted, I'll get taken out very quickly. With the 90 degrees to the left and right of the turret, you're just going to get circled as well. So we make sure we aim a shot there into the lower plate of that T-55 Enigma, and we manage to penetrate and set him on fire. Going to pop a smoke screen there as we did get spotted quickly. Hopefully that means that the enemies will turn their attention to someone else. Looks like it's a bit of a bug there, as we do have a shot still on this T-55 Enigma, which means that I was hoping to splash him there. What I should have done is switch to the regular HE, because with the higher alpha damage, even though the blast radius or the splash radius is the same as the Hesh, because of that higher alpha damage, it means that you're likely to do more splash damage. So I should have switched to the regular HE there, and it's just about, again, practicing with this tank. I should have fired there on that Leopard 1A5, but you can see I'm not too confident with this gun yet. And when you fire, other tanks can make you pay with the DPM and the ATGMs that are flying around in Era 2. So we've got Hesh loaded. Going to try and get a shot into this FE4 to 11, and I believe the reason I'm firing Hesh at this point is just to deal some damage, because it's been frustrating so far. However, we aim up there on the Leopard. We probably should have loaded the AP, but Hesh, if it was a little bit flatter, would have been able to go through. Fortunately for us, we do have some cover. Turret gets damaged, which we repair, and we are taking fire from an auto cannon. Fortunately, some of the shots get absorbed by the little bits of armour that we looked at earlier in today's video. We're down by one tank, but we're not out of this gameplay by any means. Again, another shot, derps just away from the tank, partly bad aiming, but also this is just the nature of this 183mm caliber gun. However, we've still dealt a respectable amount of damage, albeit a frustrating game so far. It's 6 versus 6, so it's very, very close. Thinking now about going up or down into the southwest to help out our Ignis Pagacio, but we do have a shot here on this 30B2 Brenus. We fire it there, and we do some splash damage, over 600 to that tank, and that means that he is now a one-shot even if we go for a splash. So pop our smoke screen there, try and bait this tank round, because we do have light tanks coming around with us. And now as we're loaded, hopefully we can take out this medium tank. He's got a light tank behind him, so hopefully he's distracted. The BMP-1 takes him out, and now's our chance to go forward and hopefully take out this light tank or this medium tank that have been harassing our friendly Ignis Pagacio. Haven't got a kill yet, but we've got nearly 6k damage, 2.8k assistance, and we've just had to play pretty patiently. And you can see there, as soon as we got spotted, we lost a lot of health. And now it's all about trying to get these alpha damage bombs in at the end of the game, and they can mean a lot. If you put someone on a one shot, it can be the difference between a victory and a loss. Hesh there goes right through the upper plate of the enemy rock crawler. It loops over that spaced armor, goes into the upper hull, and penetrates for over 1300 damage, which is a low roll, but I'm not going to complain, because this game has been exceptionally frustrating. The Leopard 1A1 continues to push forward. We can penetrate with any of our rounds from that angle, and we go through with the Hesh to take him out for over 500 damage, picking up our first kill of this game. Hiding behind this destructible cover now, the 30B2 Brenus looks like he might be trying to make an exit, so we're going to try and catch him, and if not, we're going to go after that rock crawler who is situated towards the north, to the northeast of this map. So I don't want to go out in the open, just in case that rock crawler is looking in my direction and can see me come up behind this building. But I feel like now I'm probably going to be the one that has to spot for the team, and if I go here with this concealment build, it's unlikely I'm going to be spotted with the vision mechanics. So what we're going to do is go through this luminescent green river here on Hell's Highway and try and spot this rock crawler towards the north. Hopefully we can get some more assistance and or take him out with another shot, because we've already put that lovely beautiful Hesh round into him. He's spotted, aiming for as long as I feel like I can. Hesh again, but unfortunately it doesn't penetrate. It means we do track him though, and we're getting some extra tracking assistance on him, so he's not long for this world. Are we going to be able to reload to get one more damaging shot into him, or will he be taken out by our friendly light tank? He's on just over 200 or 250 hit points, so it would be a nice little bit of extra damage, and we're just going to ship it now towards him. Pretty decent mobility, as you can see, with the power to weight ratio of this tank. Plenty of rounds And yeah, you just got to try and have fun in this vehicle, have a laugh, don't take it too seriously, but still set it up correctly. And yeah, surprisingly good concealment for the size and the silhouette of this vehicle. So this rock crawler's behind this cover. Going to free aim here, and hopefully we can just splash him quickly. It does derp underneath, but that splash is enough to either hit his tracks or hit the ground and take him out, meaning we pick up our second kill there on that rock crawler. Another profit without a premium account, only a second class, 1488 base XP, meaning people are having fantastic games, which is very, very typical for a tank that is new, especially one with massive alpha damage bombs. And we pick up 2 kills, 8.5k direct damage, 3.4k assistance. And yeah, we fired a lot of rounds there, didn't hit too many, but fortunately there's enough ammunition in this 10 minutes 20-second battle to take us through. So that's the final gameplay of today's video, showing you the pros and the absolute mega cons of this vehicle, with the horrendous derpy nature. Sometimes this gun will just completely fail you even when you're fully aimed and the enemies are close to you, so don't take it too seriously, just have fun. Let me know what you thought of this review, whether you picked up this vehicle, and yeah, thank you for your patience whilst I've been on holiday. Hopefully get some more videos out in the next couple weeks, and until then I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.